Hello everyone, and welcome to a very exciting game from round 8 of the Shamkir Chess tournament, also known as the Gashimov Memorial. Sorry, there's already a move on the board. We have a game between Anish Giri and the Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen is in the lead in this tournament as of his victory over Veselin Topalov, and Giri had a nice draw against Rauf Mamedov yesterday on his birthday, so definitely an interesting clash. And if you remember, in the Tata Steel, we had a very nice tiebreak between Anish Giri and Magnus Carlsen, where Carlsen in the end proved that he is definitely deserving of the title of world champion. So always an interesting matchup. This game Giri has the white pieces, and it's a really interesting game because Carlsen plays a very sneaky variation. Basically, he follows a game played between Levon Aronian between Levon Aronian and Jan Nepomniachtchi, and Giri also knows that he's playing that game, but he can't really remember the moves from the game, and each time he makes a move, he remembers that that move was actually played in that game, but he doesn't want to follow that game because he feels that Carlsen knows this game, and Carlsen is like playing moves instantaneously, and Giri has to think, and every time Giri makes a move, he plays the same move as was played in the game, Aronian Nepomniachtchi, but he can't help it because the move makes sense. So it's a very interesting game, and here we even have a couple of photos. Here is Giri versus Carlsen. I pushed the board all the way to the right so you don't see the position, and don't look at the position on the board, you know, don't want to spoil it. And we do have one more. This is one from the side. I can't make it full screen since it's more of a square photo, but here just so you get the feeling of the space, you know. And there you have above them it says in the memory of Vugar Gashimov. So I do have something else prepared, but we will get to that after the game. So Giri has the white pieces and he opens with c4. We have e5, so English opening is on the board, the King's English variation, knight to c3, knight to f6, the two knights variation, we have knight to f3 and the knight to c6, going into the four knights variation of the English. g3, we have d5, c captures, knight captures, bishop to g2, and knight to b6. Giri castles, bishop to e7, a3, and a5. This is all the moves are from the game Levon Aronian and Jan Nepomniachtchi. We have d3, and d3 was the first move where Giri had to think. So after this a5 move, all the moves were like played under a minute, some of them even under 10 seconds by Carlsen, and d3 is the first move that Giri had to think. It took him 8 minutes to decide on d3. Carlsen castles, still playing moves instantaneously. We have bishop to e3, bishop to e6, and rook to c1. All the moves follow that game. We have a4, and now comes knight to d2. What's the idea? Why is a4 played? Well, okay, you are offering bishop captures on b6, and after the knight is defending the a4 square, so why not capture it? Well, if you play bishop captures and then c captures on b6, knight captures on a4, you allow this very annoying e4 move. And now you can't capture, because then queen will capture queen, and rook captures knight, you lose a piece. So you'd have to go knight e1, and then bishop to g5 attacks the rook on c1, and you have to move the rook. If you play something like e3, then the e captures on d3 is coming, and after knight captures, bishop to f5, and black gets insane development for the price of that one a pawn. So after this a4 move, we have knight to d2 by Giri, not allowing this e4 move to come with tempo on the knight, and also not the knight is guarding e4. So now capturing is definitely a possibility. And here, even though Carlsen knows about this game, it took him 12 minutes to decide on his next move, and he does. He plays f5. He again invites Giri to capture on b6, and this time Giri does. We have bishop captures, c captures on b6, and the knight captures on a4. Grabbing a clean pawn. Bishop to g5, now pinning the knight on d2, the rook on c1 would be under attack if the knight moved, and Giri immediately retreats, knight to c3, so it was basically a hit and run. We have e4 by Carlsen, now offering Giri a lot of choices. If you play something like d captures, then you get bishop captures on d2, you lost a piece, the knight is undefended, so that's obviously not an option. Also, an idea could be f4. You simply say the bishop don't attack my knight on d2, and after the bishop moves I will only then capture on e4. The problem is, after you play e captures on f3 en passant, knight captures, you get this bishop to e3 check. Not even capturing the rook on c1, but rather bishop to e3 check, king h1, and now this bishop is completely cramping in white's position, and you don't want to even give up this beautiful bishop for this rook. I mean, you just want to have it there forever. So this would be extremely unpleasant for white to play. So after this e4 move, Giri couldn't remember what to play here. He did consider a couple of things. In the game, Aronan Nepomniachtchi, rook to b1 was played, but here Giri plays king to h1. This is a novelty, and as of this move, it's a completely new game. We have queen to d7 by Carlsen, rook to b1, now unpinning the knight, and now rook 8 to d8, piling up on that d3 pawn. You could also grab the pawn immediately, for example, capture, capture, queen captures on d3, win back the pawn, but after knight to f3, you won back the pawn, the material is equal, but even if you exchange queens, it's actually white that's better. You just have equal material with a worse pawn structure. So instead, Carlsen goes for rook 8 to d8. There's always time to grab material. We have knight to c4 by Giri, and now queen to f7. Of course, if you play something like bishop captures, then you get the d captures on c4. Not really accomplishing anything. So queen to f7. Queen to f7, now you're definitely threatening bishop captures on c4, as if you capture, then the queen would come under attack from the rook on d8. b3, now defending the knight with the b pawn as well. E captures on d3, e captures on d3, and now f4. Finally, Carlsen gets something for his pawn. He will start an attack on the white king. Giri plays knight to e4, attacks the bishop on g5, we have bishop to e7, and now comes g captures on h4. Carlsen thought that this wasn't necessarily a mistake by Giri, and he didn't think that Giri's position was bad. He just thought that it was ugly, and Giri agreed. Later, after the game, they analyzed some of the moves with the legendary Ljubomir Ljubojevic, and they both agreed that Giri's position isn't bad, it's just ugly. So g captures on f4, queen captures on f4, and now a4. You don't want to capture on b6, there's really no point to that. Your a3 pawn is under attack, so first Giri prevents Carlsen from capturing the a3 pawn, and now there's always time to capture on b6. We have knight to b4 by Carlsen, with a double attack on the d3 pawn, and now we have a vintage Giri move. This is a move only Giri can come up with. So the d3 pawn is under attack twice, only the queen is defending it. And look at the move Giri finds. Giri plays queen to e2, and queen to e2 is a monster move. What's the idea behind queen to e2? Well, the idea is that after Carlsen captures on d3, for example, rook captures on d3, knight to g5. Now, the bishop on e6 is attacked twice, and also if the bishop moves, the bishop on e7 is under attack. So let's say bishop captures, now queen captures on e7, the bishop on c4 is under attack, and the queen from e7 is now defending the knight on g5. So bishop has to move. We have knight to e6 now, attacking the queen and the rook. So what do you do here? Bishop captures on g2, king captures on g2, and this would now basically force Carlsen into forcing a draw. Queen f3 check, king g1, and now as Giri is threatening checkmate here, you don't really have a lot of moves you can play here. You would simply have to continue checking the white king. Check, king moves, and so on. So basically what Giri found after this knight to b4 move is queen e2 is basically a draw offer. And what a draw offer it is. But Carlsen declines it. He plays queen to h6. Now the queen is defending the bishop on e6. Also, he's making room for his rook. The rook can now come to f4 and later to h4. We have rook b to d1 by Giri. Now the d3 pawn is defended, and knight to d5. Rook to g1, and here Carlsen played king to h8. You could immediately go for something like knight to f4, attacking queen bishop, but after queen e3, there's really no tactical shot that accomplishes anything for black, and your knight is kind of pinned here. The queens are eyeing each other. So after rook to g1, king to h8 by Carlsen, We have bishop to f1 and rook to f4, finally bringing the rook into the game. Knight to e5 by Giri, and here Carlsen could go immediately for rook to h4 to, try and do something with this h-file, but after f3, defending the pawn, for example, knight to e3, attacking the rook, and after rook to d2, knight to f5, there's nothing serious here for black. It's a nice position and everything, but Carlsen thinks there's even better. So instead of going for this immediately, Carlsen goes rook d to f8, brings another rook into the game. What do you do here? f3. Giri immediately prepares for the siege of the h-file, so now the queen is already guarding h2. Rook to h4 by Carlsen, and now d4. So now Carlsen plays knight to f4, and the queen is attacked, but also now the bishop is attacking the b3 pawn. And you can't defend the b3 pawn, so basically now Carlsen is winning back the pawn. If you play something silly like queen c2 trying to defend it, then bishop captures on b3, wins the game. Your queen is attacked. If you capture the bishop, of course, rook captures on h1, finishes the game immediately. That's checkmate. And it doesn't matter even if you play queen b2 or anything. There's no point. That pawn is lost. So Giri played knight to d2, and we have bishop captures on b3. Rook b1, and bishop captures on a4. So Carlsen, gobbled up all of the queenside pawns, but it's not really a big deal since both of his queenside pawns are doubled on the b file. So bishop to b5, Giri wants to exchange this bishop so he can double rooks on the b file, bishop captures, rook captures, and now queen to e6. It's interesting, I checked out this position during live stream, and the engine evaluated this position as better for black, but only if black plays queen e6, and that's exactly what Carlsen played. So Carlsen played queen to e6, and we have queen to b2. Giri now is preparing to grab the b6 pawn. So bishop to d8, defending the b6 pawn. Carlsen doesn't let him, and now comes knight to g5. And again, it's a very tricky variation. Your queen is under attack. You could choose to grab the knight immediately, but then again, your b pawn will be under attack again. And Carlsen played queen to e8, which is again the strongest move. If you play something like queen e7, this is very tricky. White actually immediately seizes the initiative with rook to e1. Seems like a weird move. Why would you give up the knight on g5? But if you do this, queen captures, then of course everyone sees what happens. But if by any chance you don't see immediately, feel free to pause it and try to find the winning move here for white. If this was played, then knight to f7 would have been deadly. Now it's check, queen is under attack. You either lose the queen and the game, or you capture the knight and you get rook to e8. Check, rook f8, and rook captures on f8 with checkmate. So after knight to g5, of course Carlsen didn't go queen e7, he went queen e8, and we have rook to b3 now. And Giri goes back. We have bishop captures, rook captures, and knight to e6 now. Carlsen attacks the rook on g5 and also pressures the d4 pawn. We have rook to g4. Giri forces an exchange of rooks here. Rook captures, pawn captures, and queen to d8. So queen to d8 is move 40 by Carlsen. So both Giri and Carlsen already made time control, and now it's move 41. And here Giri was thinking for over half an hour what to do. Now he gained more time, they reached time control, and now you can finally relax. For the last 10 moves, Giri was in serious time trouble. So it's of course Carlsen is up a pawn, and his king is a bit safer. Giri's king is a bit opened up. It's of course a better position for black. But what do you do here? Here Giri played rook to h3, and rook to h3 is kind of a blunder. It allows Carlsen to immediately seize the initiative, which he does. The only move that Giri could play is actually rook to f3. Rook to f3 with the idea of exchanging rooks. And if Carlsen plays queen to d5 to pin the rook, then you play queen b3. You defend. Both the queen is now defended and the rook is defended. But the problem is, here black can actually play rook captures on f3. Temporarily sacrifice the queen, and after queen captures, rook to f1 check. King to g2, and now knight to f4, forking the king and the queen. King captures, knight captures on d5, and Carlsen would still be up a pawn, and I mean, it's a doubled B pawn, but probably winning. If any, I mean, in Carlsen's hands, definitely a winning endgame. So after this queen to d8 move, instead Giri played rook to h3, but this allows something Giri completely missed. Here Carlsen played queen to d5 check, and this check allows him to infiltrate Giri's position very nicely. King to g1 was played, and now queen to e4, and this is probably the move Giri missed. Now queen to e1 is a terrible threat, you have to stop this. Giri played queen to b4, now the queen is guarding b1 and also e1, but there's really no hope of recovery here. Rook to c8 is definitely an idea with rook to c1 to follow, but Carlsen simply played rook to f6, and it was in this position that Anish Giri resigned the game. Why did he resign? Well, he played rook to f6 so he could move the knight, because he couldn't move the knight, the queen was eyeing the rook on f8. Now that the rook is on f6, there's really no stopping this knight. Knight is coming to f4 and it's game over. We're just going to show one variation. For example, if Giri tried rook k3 to go for some rook a8 ideas, then first h5, make some breathing space for your king, and after the rook goes back, for example, to pin this pawn, then knight to f4. But knight to f4 is coming in all variations. Let's say rook to f3, and now h captures on g4. Rook captures, rook captures, there's really nothing you can do here. Queen d2, let's say queen b1 check, king moves, queen f1 check. The king is immediately in the mating net. Queen h3 checkmate is a threat. If the knight moves queen to f3, checkmate will be a threat. It's a funny position. You can even allow knight g6 check, forking the king and the rook after the king moves. There's no defense against queen h3 or queen f3. You capture, you get queen f3 checkmate now. So very nice position and a very nice game, and unfortunately for Giri, he spent too much time trying to figure out which games were played in the Aronya Nepomniachtchi game and which weren't, and how to go about the position. So after rook f6 by Carlsen, Giri resigned the game. Like I said, we do have a couple of more things to show. Here, for example, that's Carlsen and Giri with the legendary Ljubomir Ljubojevic analyzing their position. Some position that I don't think this position occurred on the board, but oh yeah, or it did. Yeah, I don't know which move this was, but it doesn't really matter. You can see that there, and it's very interesting. Giri is not like other players. For example, you will see other players and they will be very sad after they lose a game. But it seems like Giri, the only games he loses are actually to Magnus Carlsen, so he doesn't even get upset after losing to him. He's always very cheerful and always gladly analyzes his game. And during the press conference, well, it's not a press conference, they just sit down and analyze the position. It's like you get the idea that it's actually Carlsen who lost. That's how strong Giri is psychologically. And of course, we have the standings after round 8. So we have Carlsen in first place with 5.5 out of 8, 3 wins, 0 losses, and 5 draws. And then we have Ding Liren. 2 wins, 0 losses, and 6 draws. So Carlsen and Ding so far undefeated in this tournament. Tomorrow, Carlsen faces Ding Liren, so that's definitely going to be one of the games that will decide the fate of this tournament. And we have Timur Rajabov, 0 wins, 0 draws, 0 wins, 0 losses, and 8 draws. Then Radoslav Wojtaszek, Anish Giri, Veselin Topalov, and also Sergei Karakin on 4 out of 8, 0 wins, 0 losses, and 8 draws. Then Shakhriyar Mamedyarov, Rauf Mamedov, and David Navara in last place with 2 out of 8. So definitely an interesting tournament, and it's interesting. Carlsen in the, well, let's call it press conference, said that if you consider his last 10 games, that he would rate them mediocre. So I don't know, I thought that was kind of rude to say in front of Giri, saying you beat Giri with a mediocre game, but yeah, okay. So yeah, that's basically the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. Giri definitely didn't, but that's chess. So yeah, as usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, probably with another game from the United States Championship, and tomorrow we'll definitely catch up on the Carlsen Ding Liren game. Thank you all.